Okay. So it's 5:02 p.m. and I'll call the meeting to order. Can we do roll call? And Katie, do you want me to do that? Okay, you do that.
All right. We'll look here. Lee Fisher,
Here.
Justin Roebuck,
Here?
Brett DeBoer,
Here.
Tim Smith,
Here.
Amanda Price.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum.
Okay. Do we have any public comment at the initial portion of the meeting? No public comment at this point? Nothing online in terms of public comment?
Nope.
Okay. So the first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. You received this the other day. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
Second.
Okay. All those in, is there discussion on this? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. So now we're on to the approval of the minutes, and I apologize again that I just realized as I sat down that I didn't attach those to the agenda. And so I think you all have a copy of that in front of you. This was prepared by the clerk's office from our last meeting.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve the minutes of the June 25th meeting with one correction.
Okay.
On page 2, we have Sean Pathak. I don't know who that is, but it sounds like an imposter.
So be.
Shane.
Correct that
Sean
to Shane.
Yeah.
Okay, S-H-A-N-E. Okay, all those in favor of approval of the minutes with the correction, please say aye.
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 I'm sorry, was there a
I
second to
don't think
that?
so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Oh.
Okay, did we have a motion to approve the minutes?
It was my motion.
Okay.
Second.
Yes, thank you.
I do have one question on it, though. It says it was agreed the meetings would be at 5:30.
Mhm.
Did that change?
Yeah, I think we moved it up to 5 just because it would be a little bit more convenient for the folks who have to stay here.
Okay.
So
So does that have to change? Do we have to change that?
I don't think so. This is what,
we
um,
agreed on at the last meeting was 5:30.
Wasn't, yeah,
Said it was
It
agreed
wasn't a
meetings will be
motion.
held at 5:30.
right. I see what you're saying, though.
I think this is a reflection of what was said at the meeting. And then when we went to schedule the meeting, there was some more input after that, so.
Yeah, I think it was when we did the polling of what day
There was
for
an
this,
option for,
then the time was changed from 5:30 to 5.
And that is reflected in here, the poll, yeah.
Okay, does that answer your question, Rhett?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we're on to a discussion by David Crilly from the Performance and Planning Department. And David, are you on? David is not on.
Do not have him on Zoom.
Okay. Well, let me text him. And then I will, in the same time then,
We've got Pam from his office though, and she just raised her hand, so I'm gonna let her talk. She might have some information.
okay.
Pam, can you hear us?
Hello, everybody. It is not Pam. It is indeed David.
Can we not hear her?
I suppose she has the account for our office, so that would explain the confusion. Okay, so can everybody hear me okay?
Turn the volume up here. Hang on.
Oh, I saw her mute and then unmute, did she? So just FYI too, for those of you who might not know, we had a power outage in this building last week, which blew
several times. Pamela, can you say something else? No, that didn't fix it. Okay.
David says, I am joined, but it doesn't seem like anyone can hear me, and I can't share my screen.
I don't see him at all. Unless he's under Pam's name, which is possible.
Oh,
He says, oh, that could be. But I think I'm texting, I'm on his cell phone. So he says, I can also do a Teams call if that's easier. He says, I am under Pam's name.
Hang on. Give me a second.
Do we have to set up a Teams call for him to be able to get in?
He can't switch out of Zoom or it won't be live.
Okay, David, maybe, okay.
Hang
Okay.
on. Give me a second.
Technology challenges. Okay.
All right. We're sure it's David, not Pamela.
Yeah.
David, can you say something else now?
Can you all hear me?
There we go.
Yay,
Got it.
yes, we
Yep,
can.
now we can.
Perfect. I've not given the option in Zoom to share my screen.
Oh, let me get to that. 1 second.
Thank you so much.
Figuring out.
And David, just so you know, I printed out your presentation, so we all have it in front of us if you want to walk us through that.
if you could, for anybody watching the recording later,
Right.
too, might be helpful.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, there's some,
Oh,
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Are you able to share your screen now?
Yes, give me 1 second.
not look like Pam.
I'm changing the name right now.
Okay, great. Working.
There.
I asked David to speak with us because the data bureau came out last Thursday. And this is just preliminary information that the county received as of last Thursday. So it's a very short presentation and we can have some questions of him. But that's where we are. That's why I asked him to be here. Go ahead, David.
Okay, thank you. So, hello, everybody. My name is David Carilli, and like Amanda had mentioned, I work as the research and data analyst in the planning and performance improvement department here at the county. One of the many things I do here is make census data more readily available for anybody who needs it, whether it be other departments, local units, the public, meetings like this. So today I'm going to briefly present on population data from the most recent census redistricting data release. And like Amanda said, if there are questions, I'll just take those at the end.
And David, I'm going to say real quick, he's
Yep.
ill. He's been ill this week and he's at home, so that's why he's not here in person.
Yeah, I figured, especially nowadays, it's best to stay home if you're sick. So bear with me. So I figured I would start off with this map. And I think it does a fairly good job of putting into perspective the growth that Ottawa County has had over the past 10 years. So as you can see, from 2010 to 2020, Ottawa County's population increased by 12.3% roughly. And as you can see in the map, Ottawa is the only county with a growth rate over 10%. Another interesting note is that the population growth seems to be primarily focused in two areas, that being West Michigan, for lack of a better term, and those counties that are immediately bordering Wayne County. So moving on, this slide shows basically the same data as in the previous map, but in table format. On the left, you can see the top 10 counties in Michigan by population. In 2010, Ottawa County was the 8th most populous county, but as of 2020, we have moved up into 7th, which is exciting. In the middle of the table, you can see the official population figures for each county in 2010 and 2020. And then off to the right, we showcase the number change as well as the percent change from 2010 to 2020. So according to this new population data, Ottawa County has gained 32,399 residents since 2010, which again, as I mentioned previously, is a 12.3% increase for a total population of 296,200. You will also notice that some of the counties have decreased over the past 10 years, those being Wayne and Genesee County in this table. Moving on this
David, can I interrupt you for a second? It's
Sure.
on our screen, your slides aren't changing. I don't know if you hold up on a different monitor.
Okay, let me try this.
There you go.
Okay.
Now it's moving.
This was the table that I was referring to previously. I'll give you all a second to gloss over that, but essentially we have our top 10 counties ranked by population size on the left, census population data in the middle, and then the percent change of population change on the right. Excuse me. Are we good to move on?
Yes.
Okay. So on this slide, we have what I like to refer to as a lollipop chart, which is very similar to a bar chart, but slightly more fun. Again, you can kind of see the distribution of growth among the 10 most populous counties in the state. Ottawa being number one there with 12.3%, and seeing those two east side counties in the negatives. Moving on to this slide. So I won't spend too much time because it's very similar to the table that I talked about previously, but this one includes counties that are ranked strictly by population change, regardless of their population size. So that's why you see Ottawa County as being number one, and then smaller counties such as Grand Traverse, Allegan, Barrie, and so on being included in this table. So moving on to local unit data. This map shows the population growth in each local unit over the past 10 years. We can clearly see a significant population increase in sort of the lower right quadrant. Places like Zeeland, Jamestown, Blendon townships, also Allendale and Port Sheldon kind of stand out with the darker green. And I suppose one interesting fact is that since 2010, all local units in the county have increased in population, which has not necessarily been the case previously. And then lastly, I wanted to show everybody this slightly overwhelming looking table, but it is important in that it shows local unit listed alphabetically, sort of broken up by classification, whether it be city or township. And then in the middle, it shows each census population figure since 1970. And then on sort of the right side of the graph, we have percent change figures going all the way back to 1970 as well. And then you can kind of see there on the right, these are not necessarily in number order. Like I said, they're alphabetical, but the greatest population growth was seen in Jamestown Township with 36.9%. Allendale came in second with 28.4%. Port Sheldon with 22.8%. Blendon with 22.7%, and Zeeland Township with 20.4%. Those kind of round out our 20% or more growth townships. So basically, all the data that I showed you guys today is available on the county website. This is a general overview. I can provide instructions for navigating to that if necessary. But you'll see all sorts of data projects, including this 2020 census data. And then as far as the rest of the data from this release, which includes things like demographic data, such as race and ethnicity, and housing data, like housing unit counts, and these go from state level all the way down to blocks. We're going to be working on analyzing this and adding it to our website in the next number of weeks in sort of an easy to use interactive database. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you all for your time, and I'm available for questions.
Just a quick question for you, David,
Yep.
were there any surprises in this information?
Mm, I wouldn't say there were any surprises, although it was all good news. The nice thing was that every year the census release population estimate data, which kind of gives us a clue as to how the population is changing in between censuses. It's not necessarily final, official data, but we do use it for some projections. And it did show that Ottawa County was the #1 growing county in the state every year since 2010. So this release sort of confirmed all of that information from the preliminary data. But no, I wouldn't say that any of this was necessarily surprising.
And did the census data track with the projections, the yearly projections, or were there great increases that hadn't been expected in between?
I would say they were fairly on par. Our projections are fairly simple linear projections that really just take a slope over time. So if anything, these projections were slightly lower than the ones that we had modeled, but not to say that, this growth is any less than we would have hoped. It's just sometimes it's different from the projections.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Are there any other questions? No, not hearing any others. Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you feel better soon.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Next up is Jane Pavlik from GIS, and we're just going to have a discussion on, first of all, the software options. We had a little bit of conversation about that at our last meeting, and since that time, there's been a couple other statewide trainings and webinars about available software. And so that part of the discussion also we want to have is how much do we want to involve the GIS staff in what we're doing? So I don't know, Shane, are you able to talk a little bit about the software options that you know about more than you did last time?
Yeah, do you want?
You want to sit there? That's
Sorry, I need to
Oh,
go up
me to
there
come
for
up
the
to
people on Zoom.
recording,
Yeah,
yeah.
they can't hear you. if
Yeah,
you're
they
on the
can't hear me
mic.
from back there. All right. So from the last time I gave you a long spreadsheet list, I think really it's been narrowed down to either the staff, GIS staff helping to create these maps or using the state apportionment tool that they just demoed today. I don't know, Amanda, if you sat in on that.
Did.
Yes. And Justin, did you sit in on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think their tool looks very comprehensive. It has all the the reporting and the drawing functionality. It did require someone to be in charge for the county. But I really think, yeah, it's coming down to just either if you feel more comfortable with having GIS staff help you out, or if you want to try out the state tool or not.
From what I understood from the webinar today, so there's a couple of things that were interesting to me. The census data was released last week.
Mhm.
The state's not releasing the census data to the counties unless they go through this tool.
Correct.
And that is on September 1.
Yeah.
Now, you can still get that tool and get the data and use something else, from what I understood.
Correct. Yes.
Or you could go with a free option that might be out there. So that's what we learned. It was
Yeah.
really interesting to see how they identified the tracks, if I'm using the right terminology.
Yes, you are. Yes.
Just identify a township, for instance, how many people are in that township. It would be in District 1, for instance. And then you'd continue to add to that track till you got your parameter for your county commission seat. So if you had 90,000 people, you divided it by 9 seats, you get 10,000 people in each track. And so the map just basically just places it and counts. And then it can go more minutely into the various, I forgot the term.
Voter, what
Voter
did they call
something.
it?
Tabulation.
Voter tabulation.
Oh, yes,
districts,
yes.
So it can go,
Which is essentially a precinct, I
Is it?
believe.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice tool. The thing I had a concern about today was they kept saying that this is in the development phase. And
Yeah.
I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
So, like,
It always makes you a little nervous when something has not been, like they're saying it's still in development, but
I'd be curious, Shane, to see what you thought of it.
Yes.
I mean, because honestly, I was fairly impressed compared to, what my expectation was at this point. It seemed like a pretty usable tool, but
yes, I actually thought it looked compared to the one option I gave you last time. That was like the $5,000 Esri apportionment tool. I'm fairly certain that this is what that's based off of,
Gotcha.
what the state of Michigan is working on, because it did look like it was Esri based. So
that makes sense.
yeah, so I thought it looked like a really great tool, especially since it's all online and yeah, you don't have to have, you're not really downloading software. I think you're just using a tool that's web-based.
yeah, and that's what it looked like. And so I don't know if the data was already imported into what they were showing us, or it was just a total example.
Yeah, I would assume that they're going to have the data already preloaded in it, and you just do the different plans that you want to do. It did allow for different plans, correct? If I remember right from the thing, so each person could do a plan.
Right, it did. And you could even take, if you had developed a plan and you saved that, and you could add or build on that version. So you save and add to it or something.
Yes.
So capable to do that.
Just a question for clarification, because I don't know how many members of the commission were aware that this. So I know that I'm on the list as the clerk, and I'm getting all these emails from the Bureau of Elections because historically they have released the census data to the county clerk. In fact, I think the statute references that. So, I keep getting these emails, but I didn't know, the webinar that we were on today is recorded, and, I'm happy to send that
Yes.
out, or if you want to send that, it doesn't matter to me. It was about an hour-long presentation of just the tool that we had discussed last time. And again, I feel like it was pretty comprehensive. One of the things that they had mentioned is that there's these 2 releases, and I wasn't quite sure what the difference was. But officially, the Bureau of Elections is considering September 30 as the release of data to the counties. And it sounds like that's the date that they're going to have the data available in a format that
You would use in your own tools, right?
go into your tool if you're using a different tool. But they currently have the data available right now in this tool. And what their comment was the data is not going to change. It's just a matter of taking like the large format files and sent to them from the Census Bureau, which has already gone through this tool. So if you're using the tool, you can essentially begin practicing developing maps now.
Yes,
and then the
correct.
official data will come on the 30th, but there's no change.
Is the tool out now, or did you say September 1st?
No, the
Right,
September
first.
1st.
Okay, head start to start working on some plans and
Right.
stuff. Assuming
Well-
it comes out on September 1st like it's supposed to.
So the tool we released on September 1, it will have the data in it. And then I did ask in the chat feature, is this the data that we can use, or do we have to wait to September 30th? And they said, no, this is the data. It's just going to be more refined as you get to September 30. So you could start September 1 and move towards that process.
Yes.
It's just not, I don't know what refined means, but
That's what, I didn't know if they mean like down even further from like the census tracts down into the blocks, and I'm not sure quite what they meant by refined.
yeah. So I didn't know. So it sounded like to me, we could start the September 1 process, but
Yes.
the release date, which is the date by which they're saying the map
The
building
60-day
is 60 days from
clock starts.
September 30.
Yeah.
We have 60 days from September 30, basically, to produce our final product.
So what you saw, did that just go down to township level, or are they talking about it going down to precinct level as they refine it?
Yes.
Yeah, what we saw was precinct.
Yeah.
level. I'm not
Level
sure
too?
what they're going
Okay.
to do differently. My understanding was maybe if we're using a separate tool, they haven't like prepared the data in a way that will modulate into separate tools yet. And that is September 30. But the data is there now in the system that they have already developed. So it seems like kind of a no-brainer to at least use it. I mean, there's no harm in us using it. The other thing is and I apologize for this too, because they sent me an email saying, like, in order to collect the census data from us, you have to sign up as an administrator.
Yeah, I was going to mention.
So I did that. So my understanding, and then it sounded like on the call, basically the administrator is the one who gives access to, which I'm fine serving as that, but I didn't want to like usurp my.
We need to make
My
a
role.
vote on, Justin can be the administrator, but it also had other levels of a viewer. Somebody could just view the maps. And then somebody could also, there's another category.
And I would assume we would all be creators and have our own log on and be able to see the maps.
Save our version of the map.
Yes.
Yeah. So the other thing that came up in the afternoon, I'm on a listserv for all the county treasurers, and our president of our association emailed out and said, it looks like that the timeline, the 60-day window, starts the day the Census Bureau released the information. And I thought,
Well, that was last week. No.
yeah, that's what I wrote. And she wrote back to me and said, the attorneys are having discussions on that right now as to what, or at least her attorney is having discussions on that right now. And what's the time frame? What is the window of the 60 days? So that was a surprise to me because she says, our attorney is saying the 60-day clock is already running regardless of what the state is saying. It's quite a pickle. And it puts us in line of potential lawsuits if maps are not approved within the statutory 60-day rule. So maybe we need
Is your president from Livingston as well? Oh, okay. Yeah, because I had a discussion with the Livingston clerk about the same thing. So it sounds like right now Livingston County is the only person saying that the state's position on that is that September 30th is the date. But
Okay. And so that's
I don't know what that means for.
Okay, so from this discussion, I'm taking a couple notes that we're going to, once we get the recorded version of this webinar, we'll get it out to those members who haven't seen it. And I'm hoping that they have also the chat questions that accompany this.
I think you can still get that through Teams. If you go back into your Teams, you can still see the chat.
Okay. That's Teams, okay. Then Justin being made the admin for the county tool. If we're in agreement,
Do we need a motion for that?
I don't think we do, but do we all agree with that?
No catching there.
That's fine.
I got to change my title on here.
And then we have to get clarification around the 60-day window start time. And something I wrote down from this meeting today was that the state must give the county commission apportionment census data within 15 days of receiving from the Census Bureau, which I looked at the statute and I couldn't find it in the statute, and they quoted the statute. So now I'm really confused between what Livingston County is saying, what the statute's saying, and what they're saying on the webinar, I was,
Is it worth asking our county attorney? I know that, I don't know if Doug can make it today, but I know, is it something we should ask our own legal counsel on, since we potentially would be?
Have you talked to Doug at all?
I've notified him about the meetings,
Okay.
and yeah,
Was he willing to come or not?
I hadn't heard back from him. I emailed him, and
Okay.
and I hadn't heard back, and then I reminded him yesterday of the meeting today. So I can find out from him if we can get that clarification.
Well, it wouldn't make sense to me. I know they've released some information to the counties, but they haven't released all of it. So why would they expect you to get started? There's probably, there's race and ethnicity data that has not been released yet, things like that we would need as well. I mean, if they haven't released everything, how can they start the clock? That's all I'm thinking. So it'd make more sense that it would start on September 30th.
On September 30 or September 1, which is when the state says they're releasing the data to us. But
They're releasing
The tool,
that
just the
day,
tool.
but not the data
It's on the
is
30th.
on the 30th.
And
the tool contains the data.
Oh, that's a good point.
But will it,
September 1,
Start
not
till
in
the
an
30th.
extractable form,
will it
But I
have
don't
all
know.
the data? Can you,
convoluted, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so we just have to make a determination. Maybe what we say is, let's talk to a corporate counsel, say, give us some clarification on what is our time, what is our window? And maybe in the same time frame, we need to get that from the state.
Yeah.
Tell us when, is it 15 days after August, 12th or something? Is it September 1 in 60 days? And they're saying it's September 30. But if the data is essentially there on September 1, yeah, okay. We'll get them some clarification on that. The other piece in this is, do we want to, and GIS has been asking me, do we want to involve the GIS staff? Because they're very helpful, they're very knowledgeable, this is my personal opinion. Why wouldn't you involve the experts on something like this? But I just want to have a bit of that discussion too, as to, do we want to try as a group construct the maps ourselves? The tool that we saw today does a little bit of self-checking, like if you've gone over the variance limit for between the districts, it warns you that you
Yes, yeah.
exceeded that, or if they're not contiguous, it warns you. But it's not as, I'm not as comfortable doing it that way because I'm not as familiar with the software as GIS folks are.
I think we should use GIS for everything that they want to give us. The other thing I was curious about, I didn't see the tool, I didn't see the webinar, but I was wondering maybe this is a question for GIS. Is there a way you can do like overlays and things, like where you could look at the 2010 map and then do an overlay with what you're doing and see the differences and things like that, or not?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure we could definitely, do the overlays for the differences between what you're doing now and what you're doing. And I think that tool actually kind of had some of that,
Did it have
but
it?
yeah.
One thing I was just thinking as we were getting David's presentation, is it'd be great to do an overlay of the commission districts with this population growth map, like our current commission districts
Yeah.
Right.
overlaid over this. Might just be interesting as a perspective, but
I did ask him to do that, and then I kind of backed off thinking, well, are we getting ahead of ourselves? And so he's very easy to do.
Yes.
But I didn't want to present that information tonight because it's like, we're just looking at the data. I don't want to put a map on top of everybody and almost like prejudice us to
Yeah.
what things are.
Yep.
So,
Well, the GIS staff will be happy to help you with the state tool or just with our own software. So either way. So
So
just
when
let
you're
us know.
talking about the GIS staff, is that our staff here?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
and then there's the other possible thought is we can have the state tool, but then the Esri free tool, we could possibly maybe compare and contrast if we wanted to do that much of a deep dive. Like, is the Esri going to be different than what the state tool is? And so we have that option because it's
Yes.
free.
Yeah, and if you have a window, hopefully of September 1st to September 30th, at least gives you a little bit of time to.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, will the data be loaded into that free software?
From the state or the one from the GI? We would have to, I think David already kind of downloaded some of that data, obviously some of that data, but when the state releases it, then we would be able to download it and just bring it into our GIS software.
Which is not a lot of tasks to do that.
No.
And it sounds like that is going to be the 30th.
First or the
Yeah.
30th? Oh,
Yeah,
that
and I
one.
think that's, the data that you're referring to and the data that you're referring to for this tool would be on the 30th.
When the
So,
state says
for
here,
September 1st, if we were to decide to just start tinkering around with the maps using the state software, we'd have that option too.
Yes.
But I would hope that we get the GIS support moving forward.
Okay.
All right.
We'll, if you could note that in the minutes that the commission members approved of using GIS staff to assist us with the data. The other question, and maybe you know, Shane, that seemed to come out between information I sent you yesterday or Monday was the presentation from Michigan State on it was a presentation to the County Treasurers Association last week. And it would just walk you through the basics of the county apportionment process. During that training, there was some discussion about variances of 11.9% between districts. Today, the state mentioned 14%.
14, yeah, I saw
And
that.
I thought, okay, where I don't even see a number. Where do they come up with that? Or what is the basis for the variances?
I didn't know. Yeah, so I wasn't sure where they got that variance number to begin with. I mean, it's easy to calculate once you're using the GIS data, but I don't know
I
where
don't,
that's set. If that's some kind of statute or something.
I don't know where the 14% comes from. I don't know if that's something new, but the other percentage that you talked about earlier comes out of case law.
Okay.
Oh,
The
okay.
case on it.
The 11%?
Okay,
Interesting.
that's good
Okay.
to know, because there were questions on the chat about, they mentioned the 14%, and then they
Yeah.
kind of a little bit backtracked about that, so, okay.
Yeah, because I think someone brought it up, the 11.9% in the webinar. So
That's in.
So what they mean by
One
the
of those
variance
cases.
is, it can, to stay within a precinct with a reasonable, you can have a 14 or 11%
yes.
off, not
Yes.
exact. Okay.
So between districts, so like District 1 could be 2,000 people more than
Okay.
District 2, but it still would be in that.
This is the case right here. Is in that packet of materials you handed out at the first meeting. It's a bunch of names versus Wayne County Apportionment Commission
Okay,
from 2001. That's where the 11.9% comes from. They say anything under 11.9, you're going to be good. Now, I don't know where this 14% is coming from. I haven't.
For some
Figured
reason,
that out.
the state had that in their
the
tool.
statute.
Yeah.
It just says as nearly as equal as possible.
right. And then the case law must override the state law? That would, what?
Well,
would
it
do?
interprets the statute.
Okay.
Case law does. So yeah, this would be the rule to follow right here.
Okay.
No.
Thank you. That's very helpful. It threw me a little bit today, and I think it threw everybody on the call.
Yes.
So that, yeah. I did reach out to the presenters on that webinar today, just to ask the question about what is the start day? What is it the Livingston County reading? Is it the September one? And they're saying September 30. So we have till the end of November to really work on it. But we'll get a little bit more clarification. Okay.
All right.
So we're all in agreement that we're going to use the state tool. We're all in agreement that we're going to use the GIS staff. to help us with this process. And then, on our agenda, 7 and 8 are, thank you, Shane. They have been kind of rolled into one larger discussion area. So,
Right?
and so
Do
I
we,
think,
do we need a motion on these? I mean, I'm happy to make one if,
if you feel like we need one, please go ahead.
okay.
Yes, you're
Well,
the
it doesn't
clerk.
hurt.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll move that we utilize the state's free reapportionment tool, as well as when the data is available to us, the GIS free tool, along with the assistance of GIS.
Okay. Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay. I think I don't have any other additional business before us. I will talk to the corporate counsel, get some clarification, make sure that you get that webinar sent out to you so you can review it. And the chats on the Teams call. And then I'll let you know what I hear from the state as well about the timeline.
I do know that in my new role as administrator, I can like the administrator can set up the account. So I'll do that as soon as they send that to me on September 1, I'm assuming is when we get that. So I'll let the commission know if there's anything I need from you. I'm assuming email. I know that was one thing they asked of me, but I think we have our official emails that we're using, right?
Mm-hmm. There was one piece, and maybe this is, you're already set up, is the MI login for third party. Is that where you go through to get the admin ability?
Yes, and I think that we'll each have to go through that login.
Okay.
So like we're each considered a third party in their system. So I think like each of us would go to that same login screen once we have accounts set up. Just type in our accounts. It's all web-based. I was actually very impressed with the tool and how simple it is to use, at least for like this initial phase. I think it'll be really kind of a fun thing to experiment with a little bit. And
Okay. So when you get that, could you also shoot out the instructions on how to do the,
definitely,
how to sign up
I
for
will
that?
do that for sure.
Okay. Let's talk about, is there anything else anyone needs to bring up at this point? Other business or thoughts or concerns? Any trainings you've seen online or any other information that you've learned since our last meeting that you'd like to share? Okay. So next meeting date, when does that look good for people? Should we look at doing something shortly after the September one release?
I think that would be the best use of our time.
Okay. Do you want me to send out just some meeting times? We're looking at probably could either do Thursday the 2nd. Well, give us a little bit of time to process. The 2nd, I'm avoiding Fridays. The 6th, 7th, 8th, or 9th.
The second won't work for me.
It won't work.
Second won't work for me either.
Okay, so we're
This
down.
is Labor Day.
Oh, thank you. So now we're down to 7th, 8th, or 9th. And
7th and 8th work for me. Yeah,
Either one's good
all
for me.
3 of those dates work for me.
okay. Tim?
The seventh works for me.
Okay. Justin, what about you?
I think I can make all 3 of those dates work. The 7th does work also.
So We say 7th at 5 PM.
Tuesday, September 7th, 5 PM, okay.
Okay. Okay. And then Shane, just to put a pin on that, if somebody could be here to just maybe walk us through the tool and how your staff sees it working, and we can play with a little, like they did today. They took Eaton County, I think, and just played with some of the numbers, but just more or less to see how it works, not to start constructing maps, but.
Sure.
And if I could through the chair, so that when your staff prepares to do the demo for us, kind of walk us through what would be the best practices, even if we are just tinkering with the software and the heavy lifting is going to be from your department. That would be really helpful to me, because I'm kind of a hands-on person. So if I'm tinkering with it and you're telling me what I'm doing, I think I can grasp it a lot quicker. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. So we're at the point in our agenda for additional public comment. Any other public comment in the room or online?
I don't have anyone online.
Okay. Okay, other than that, I think,
How many people are online?
On the actual Zoom, there are 2. I cannot see how many are watching live on YouTube though, but it does tell us after we end the live.
okay. Then I think I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Aye,
Hi.
motion carries. We're adjourned. Okay, Katie, did you,
I made that motion last time. I didn't want to
After you,
make it twice.